knew that too. For some of them, murmured dissent. But then Joe said, "Are you scared to invite him?" So they got angry and said, call him. So Professor Matthews was gracious enough to attend our meeting of the ANC Youth League and face his students' interrogation. He patiently explained that they had boycotted the council by arresting its machinery from within. One of our senior members in the Youth League, Mr. Ntu Mokhetle, then got up. Mr. Mokhetle was an MSc graduate in zoology who was doing a diploma in teaching, and he later became, of course, the Prime Minister of Lesotho. Mr. Mokhetle had a very aggressive style. He said, "Professor, do you believe in democracy?" Professor Matthews, in his calm and cool style, said, "Yes, Mr. Mokhetle, I do. Except that sometimes I have no confidence in the demos, i.e. the people. Because it is not so much the hands one counts when it comes to voting that matter, but the heads behind them." What should I tell you, ladies and gentlemen? Thus ended the debate. I remember writing in the World newspaper in 1976 that as students we criticized severely some of the political stances of great political leaders of our youth. Yet still we respected them profoundly. It was experience once we were out of the world that made us understand these leaders. ZK's work was not only political, he was a great educationist and sought to broaden the horizons of Africans across the continent through higher education. Together with Dr. Hare, the principal of Fort Hare, ZK was appointed to the Delaware Imperial Commission on Higher Education in East Africa and Sudan. Among the 9 commissioners, they alone had any experience of African education, and their contribution greatly influenced their British colleagues. Dr. Hare later wrote of his admiration for ZK's skill as an advisor. Then, of course, there was his faith as a Christian. He was a committed Christian and worked diligently for the church. I remember there was a stained glass window in the chapel at Beda Hall, depicting St. Bede, the classical scholar who translated the Bible from Latin to English. At his feet, looking up in rapt attention, was a young disciple. The artist had used Bishop William Edmund Smythe, the first warden of Beda Hall, as inspiration for the face of St. Bede. But the disciple's face belonged to no other person than Z.K. Matthews. I don't know whether it's still there. During his student days at Fort Hare, Z.K. had developed a great friendship with Bishop Smythe. Among many things, he appreciated that under Bishop Smythe, Beda Hall alone had no rule about lights out. This was to the end of other hostels, and particularly conducive to ZK's education, for he preferred studying in the quiet of the night, often staying up to 3 or 4 in the morning. In 1952, while serving as principal of Fort Hare, ZK worked for a year at Union Theological Seminary in New York as a visiting professor. At that time, the relentless barrage of legislation to extend racial discrimination had prompted the ANC and the Communist Party to launch the Defiance Campaign with the aim of mobilizing the widespread defiance of curfews, pass laws, and segregated amenities. Inkosi Albert Luthuli, our President General then, who was elected president in 1952, gave his support to the principle of mass action. However, sadly, the Defiance Campaign soon petered out, as one after the other, its organizers were banned or imprisoned. The next major breakthrough was when Professor Z.K. Matthews proposed the idea of an assembly of the people at a conference of the ANC in the Cape. The purpose of the assembly was to adopt a freedom charter, which primarily affirmed that South Africa belonged to all its inhabitants, black and white. The charter demanded a non-racial democratic system of government and equal protection of all before the rule. It famously proclaimed South Africa belongs to all who live in it, black and white, and no government can justly claim authority unless it is based on the will of the people. As one of his drafters, ZK's ideological fingerprints are all over the document. With this level of involvement in our struggle, it is not surprising that ZK was among the 156 activists who were arrested in December 1956, who stood accused at the treason trial. My friend Joe was among them, as was Inkosi Albert Luthuli. Inkosi Albert Luthuli later wrote the following, and I quote him: "The treason trial must occupy a special place in South African history. That grim pre-dawn raid, deliberately calculated to strike terror into hesitant minds and impress upon the entire nation the determination of the governing clique to stifle all opposition, made 156 of us, belonging to all races of our land, into a group of accused, facing one of the most serious charges in any legal system," unquote. I admired my professor tremendously for the way he handled these tribulations. He emerged from it utterly unembittered. Years later, in 1975, Mrs. Frida Matthews asked Professor Monica Wilson to edit her late husband's autobiography and pen a memoir. Professor Wilson was among those who had penned a tribute to ZK shortly after his death. In that tribute, she recalled ZK's composure and fortitude throughout his detention and trial. She wrote, and I quote her, "The judge who tried him for treason and acquitted him congratulated him at the end of the case on the manner in which he had given evidence. He could view even his own case with an astonishing measure of objectivity. And I remember a sunny day after he had come out of jail, when he told of the absurdities of that period of imprisonment without a trace of malice. It was in the manner of a soldier returned from battle who can yet recall the comradeship and the jokes," unquote. Once acquitted, ZK returned to Fort Hare, but these were seismic changes. There were seismic changes on the horizon at this university. Because in 1959, the apartheid regime passed the Extension of University Education Act to establish separate university colleges for Africans, Coloureds, and Asians. Wits and Cape Town University were no longer open to Africans, and Fort Hare would be exclusively for Xhosa-speaking students. For us black people, we were even split on ethnic basis. Control of Fort Hare was then taken away from its multiracial governing council and given to the Minister of Bantu Education with the powers to dismiss staff. Professor Matthews was 2 years away from retirement. He loved his work at Fort Hare, but ultimately he felt he could not compromise his principles, and he resigned. In doing so, he lost both his job and his pension. For a while after that, he earned a living practicing as an attorney in Alice before taking up a position as Secretary of the World Council of Churches in Geneva. He traveled up and down Africa on behalf of Interchurch Aid, and together with Sir Hugh Foote, investigated the plight of refugees. The report they produced proved profoundly influential and drew the attention of the United Nations to this important issue. Then came what I call his swan song. Then came what I call his swan song. When Botswana achieved independence on the 30th of September 1966, Cesar Khama became its first president. Cesar Khama was a former student of Professor Matthews and knew his remarkable strengths. He quickly appointed Professor Matthews as Botswana's ambassador to the United States and representative of Botswana at the United Nations. Thus, Professor Matthews presented his credentials to President Lyndon B. Johnson and settled in Washington and began discussing world politics with heads of state. Sadly, this appointment lasted less than 2 years before his health began to fail. At the youthful age, at the youthful age of 68, ZK passed away in Washington. in May 1968. In a gesture of exceptional respect, President Johnson flew his mortal remains back to Botswana in the president's own plane. Soon after his death, I was asked to write an article for a magazine which was published in Lovedale called South African Outlook. Let me quote from my article in the Outlook, which I entitled His Death. In part, it read as follows. I wrote, after the funeral service, one of the longest cottages I have ever seen wound its way to the outskirts of Gaborone, where the cemetery is. The rites at the graveside were performed by Bishop Skelton. There were hundreds of people of all races from all parts of South Africa and the world, from Botswana and Lesotho. Mrs. Frida Matthews was the very personification of composure and dignity in her grief, as were her children. Joe supported his mother throughout the service at the graveside. Dr. Matthews, the surviving brother, expressed thanks for all on behalf of the family. Thus, ladies and gentlemen, was laid to rest one of the greatest leaders I've ever had the privilege to know in my lifetime. I thought it was absolutely marvelous that during the latter part of his life in service of God and his fellow man, Dr. Zachariah Hugh Derilling Matthews should have died in harness, serving a non-racial country, in a non-racial setting, something he always strove for, even in his own country. Today, as we celebrate the centenary of University of Fort Hare, it is fitting that we remember the exceptional life of Professor Zachariah Q. Derilling Matthews. At this juncture in history, our country wrestles with contentious issues of tertiary education. Across South Africa, our institutions are seized with the debate on access to education, student fees, the outsourcing of university employees, student revolts, and the role of historical names and statues. Politics is playing a heavy role in the direction of this debate. Thus, education is flung in an ocean of turbulence. What then can be the individual student hold on today? What can inspire hope in the young man or woman who pursues education for education's sake, whose intellectual capacity cries out to be filled, and whose thirst for knowledge transcends all other considerations? Their anchor is this, that it can be done. Z.K. Matthews blazed a trail, pursuing higher education when the consensus among those in power was against him becoming anything at all. He went from impoverished streets of Kimberley to the hallowed halls of the United Nations, and he did it through his own efforts, using his own capacity on merit. Thus, I would say to the students at Fort Hare in 2016, please heed this example. Let it be an inspiration to you as you pursue not just a degree, but a life of learning. Respect the education offered to you at the university. Show respect to your lecturers and professors. A university education is the beginning of your destiny. How you achieve it will forever speak of your own character. This, in my view, is the legacy of Z.K. Matthews. I cannot help but wonder how a leader of his caliber would view the present state of the party that he served and the country he loved. How would he have felt about Polokwane and Mangaung? What would his reaction have been to the depth of corruption that pervades our democratic government at all levels, with the hardships we face in South Africa, from a failing economy to drought, unemployment, and increasing social unrest? The danger of an implosion is ever present, and the threat of demagoguery is upon us. Those of us who love our country are tempted to abandon hope, but ZK would undoubtedly have reacted by calling for calm and urging us to maintain hope. In the darkest hour, I'm always reminded of a favorite quote from my late friend, Sir Lawrence van der Post. He loved to quote Robert Louis Stevenson when I talked with him, who wrote, "It is better to travel in hope than to arrive." Now, more than ever, we need the kind of leadership that ZK provided. Calm, strong, reasoned, and predicated on a genuine belief in equality. The present challenges demand that we be more cerebral than emotional. I see our speaker is here. You remember that they described the parliament during the past, that there was a lot of hot air. I'm not sure whether ours is actually not hot air today. I'm reminded also of my professor of history here at Fort Hare, Professor Chapman, who when he was teaching us about feudalism, he would at the end, feudalism was confusion roughly organized. We need a measured intellect of a Z.K. Matthews. For the sake of South Africa, I pray that God will provide. I thank you. Because Sikeleli Africa.
Ndabezitha Shenge siyabonga kakhulu sithanda ukuxolisa Ndabezitha the technical hitches kunabantu that keep plugging things around us. As a matter of fact, ikwaya sizoyicela isinikeze item while they're switching over the supply of power to a generator. Apologies for those technical glitches during the delivery of the main speaker. Thank you so much. Choir, please. So we'll be fine with that one item required.
Sikia
Forte Choir. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Mic, me. The Forte Choir. Let's give the choir another big round of applause, please. Thank you. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we continue. We have very few items in this section. Let me find out, we're still having a good time here? We're having a great time at Forte. Can you feel it? My Forteni, right? Thank you. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to invite the Minister of Higher Education to come and address us. Honorable Blade Nzimande Mpatiswa, Kauze Uzoteta Centenary Celebrations, University of Forte.
Thank you, Program Director, Mr. Mafani, the Speaker of the National Assembly, Balega Mbete, the Honorable Minister Naledi Pando representing the ZK family, Minister Khatebe in the Presidency, and all the Cabinet colleagues who are here, Secretary General and the Treasurer General of the ANC, Comrade Gwede and Comrade Zweli, Honorable Inkosi Mangosuthu Buthelezi, Premier of the Province and the MECs, all mayors present and councillors, House of Traditional Leaders, religious leaders, members of the University Council, led by Ms. Thandi Olaine, and the Vice-Chancellor, as well as the Chancellor-elect Brastoff, representatives of councils from other universities, as well as Vice-Chancellors, alumni, staff and management, SRC leadership, business representatives, government officials, distinguished guests, students, ladies and gentlemen, it is a great honor for me to be part of this special centenary celebration of the University of Forte, and especially to speak following the memorial lecture for the late ZK Matthews delivered by Inkosi Buthelezi. This is a short message I'm giving on behalf of our department and government. The birth of the South African Native College, the forerunner of the University of Forte, was of course not out of context with what was happening in South Africa at the time. Some of these developments have been eloquently articulated by the Premier, which includes the fact that a Union of South Africa for Whites was established in 1910, as well as the establishment of the African National Congress, the founding 4 years before Fort Hare, as well as the raft of other discriminatory laws that were passed at the time. Professor Z.K. Matthews, an intellectual and a former scholar of this institution, reviewed native education as follows at the time, and I quote, "African people have pointed out that there was a danger of their children being given a form of education which might be more of a handicap to them than anything else. They have demanded for their children an education which takes due account of the fact that they are living in the modern world, in an environment which includes both Western and African elements linked together indissolubly." Unquote. This appeared in the South African Outlook of September 1946. I am sure, Shenge, that despite the many problems that we face, but if Professor Z.K. Matthews were to wake up today, I have no doubt that he would be very proud of what the African National Congress government has done, especially in education. Last year, for the first time, we reached 1 million university students. This year, the National Student Financial Aid Scheme is hitting 10 billion rands. Today, the majority of our schools are no-fee schools, and they also have a feeding scheme, and the majority of university students today are African women. A far cry from the 42 women at some stage that Dr. Qubule was talking about. Nevertheless, this does not mean that this government must rest in its laurels. We must build on these achievements in order to honor the likes of Professor Z.K. Matthews. Indeed, the history of Fort Hare, as Comrade O.R. Tambo said during his installation as Chancellor of this university in 1999, quote, "Fort Hare was molded by the peculiarities of the history of Southern Africa and the struggles authored by this history. And it was and still is the culmination of drama of interpenetrating and at times contradictory forces," unquote. With its founders being men of the cloth and missionaries, and with deep sense of admiration of this display of resilience by this university throughout its 100 years of existence today, I therefore find it befitting to borrow from a common saying by Christians in Xhosa that ngenene kude kwalapha uThixo enono college. Today is the day we marvel and celebrate this illustrious history of Uno College, as the university used to be affectionately known back then, which indeed epitomizes resilience, tenacity, resistance against injustice, hope, aspirations, intellectualism, excellence, and pride. These are just a few adjectives that one can appropriately describe this institution as we wish it a happy centenary. I was interviewed by the media there asking me, am I not very proud that at Fort Hare's centenary I'm the Minister of Higher Education and Training? And I said, I'm very proud. I only pity ministers who will come after me because they will have to wait another 100 years before they achieve what I have achieved today. And indeed, Fort Hare embodies what we had always believed in as this movement, that there was no contradiction between the national liberation struggle and education. And indeed, education was and continues to be a terrain of struggle to reconstruct our own country. The university, as everybody has said, is renowned for having produced many, many luminaries that I won't repeat. But one of them, reflecting back at his experiences at Fort Hare, Nelson Mandela wrote later in his biography, and I quote, "For young black South Africans like myself, Fort Hare was Oxford and Cambridge, Harvard and Yale, all rolled into one." This illustrates the impact the institution had on these young black minds and the pride they took in being associated with this institution. By the way, I do need to say, Honorable Program Director, I have a very strange but interesting connection with Fort Hare. My mother, uMadlamini uJamas Jadu Cubungulash, intombi ezalwa eChanqele eMount Frere, kodwa yakhulela kuQumbu. When she finished a dream as a young girl growing up in the Eastern Cape was to study at Fort Hare. But because she came from a poor family, when she finished secondary school, the only option that was there for her was a bursary to go and start Abutish and go. So she did not reach her dream of becoming a student at Fort Hare. But then she used to tell us that she said at the time, if and when I get children, I will make sure that at least one of them must go to university to compensate for the fact that I never went to Fort Hare. And she did everything such that this person standing in front of you here did not graduate at Fort Hare, but graduated at the University of Zululand in 1980 to realize my mother's dream. So, Fort Hare remains and was an inspiration. It is important, therefore, that as we celebrate the rich history of the university, we also reflect a little on where the university is today in terms of engaged scholarship and how it should position itself with respect to its mission and vision, as well as the core functions of teaching and learning, research, and community engagement. The university has had its own challenges over the last 21 years of our democracy, and also opened up higher education more broadly, though. It has grown substantially, developing a campus in East London. Fort Hare in 2000, it had a total enrollment of 4,437 students, and this year it is expected to enroll a total of just over 13,000 students, which is a growth of 193% over the 15-year period. Impressively, as Minister Pando said, it has improved its research output to such an extent that it is now considered as a research-active institution, which is ranked 7th in the country when it is measured in terms of its weighted research output per capita. There is no doubt that the University of Fort Hare is punching above its weight and has an important role to play within the public higher education sector more broadly. My ministry and department has over the past few years strongly advocated for a diversified, differentiated, and yet integrated post-school system where institutions are able to identify their niche areas and develop special capacity in these. There is no use in all our universities trying to do the same thing when the demands for social development are diverse. My department continues to provide additional support to universities that were disadvantaged under the apartheid regime. Although Fort Hare has a long, illustrious history, there is no doubt that it suffered setbacks when it was incorporated into being part of Bantustan. We set aside a special fund to address challenges that still prevail as a result of the apartheid legacy and to enable the so-called historically disadvantaged institutions to develop to the desired level that defines university scholarship and academic excellence. The University of Fort Hare is one of the 8 contact universities identified in the Ministerial Committee report of the review of the funding of universities in October 2013 that should benefit from a new grant which we have set up to assist these universities to raise the bar, to raise the quality. So it will be Fort Hare together with universities of Limpopo, Venda, Walter Sisulu, Western Cape, Zululand, Mangosuthu University of Technology, and Sfago Makgatho Health Sciences universities. We have a 5-year grant between 2015-2016 to 2019-2020 to give to each of these universities to use this amount of money as they see fit in line with developing, including developing niche areas for themselves and raising quality. I trust that the University of Fort Hare will take full advantage of these special allocations as it continues to seek to advance scholarly knowledge that is socially and ethically relevant to the South African and African context. We wish to see this university growing from strength to strength, producing more leaders, intellectuals, and scientists in the next 100 years. We believe that Fort Hare has a legacy to live up to and a future to reimagine within the African continent and the global South as it looks forward to being the alma mater of the next generation of Africa's leaders. In conclusion, my wish for this university is that it continues to strengthen itself as a center for research excellence and postgraduate studies, and make a significant contribution in the production of a quality black professoriate for our country, the continent, and the world. As we celebrate this centenary, our South African professoriate is still 83% white, something that we have to change. We are willing to partner with the University of Fort Hare in this regard through, amongst others, our new generation of academics program that we started last year. As a country and continent, we need to shift from being consumers of knowledge produced somewhere else to becoming eminent producers of cutting-edge knowledge ourselves. It must also be within this context, Dr. Tom, maybe, that University of Fort Hare must consciously seek to reposition itself as a leading institution in terms of curriculum transformation aimed at producing graduates who grasp the developmental challenges facing our country. As Fort Hare has led in many respects, we are also asking Fort Hare to lead in this respect, including curriculum transformation. We want Fort Hare, like we would like all our universities, but in particular Fort Hare, to be a place of ideas, of great debates. I'm worried in South Africa in the social sciences, there is still too much predominance of one idea of neoliberalism. My own wish as a minister and the SG, I'm unapologetic about this. You can't have a university with a singular dominant trend of thought. There must be many, many ideas that are expressed, including the teaching of Marxism at Fort Hare. I am unapologetic about this because the danger to any university is to be impatient. All ideas must be expressed, including those that some may regard as outdated. Indeed, this is my wish, and this is the challenge of the University of Fort Hare, as I say, much as it is a challenge for our entire education system. I really wish the University of Fort Hare a happy 100 years, and may you have many, many more, and each of the years as Fort Hare moves forward, you must grow and be a strong institution. You must know, though, we are not celebrating only on your own. Fort Hare is not only for the alumni and the students of Fort Hare. Fort Hare is a national asset. The nation as a whole is celebrating today. Thank you very much.
Masambe ngazo zozibini kuMinister wezemfundo uDr Blade Nzimande sithi mphephethwa ngwekazi utsho kwavokotheka. We know, Minister, or we knew when we walked through these doors that we were carrying the hopes and dreams of not just our parents as well, but we were carrying the hopes and dreams of our entire communities. And therefore, the day that you walk up these stairs to the center of this very stage to get your degree, you knew that your life would change forever. And I'm hoping that with this centenary celebration, that pride is going to be restored in our communities and in the students of Fort Hare. We are coming closer to the end of our program. I would just like to remind you that today we are just kicking off a year-long program of celebrations. Upatko has mentioned that universities around the country are also noting this day and doing various activities to celebrate it. And all SABC platforms as well are carrying the story, and some of them are carrying it live. That's 18 radio stations and 4 television channels. I am looking forward to the women's cricket match. I've been told that the West Indies women's cricket team is going to be playing against Fort Hare women's cricket team. When I was at Fort Hare, there was no women's cricket. I'm looking forward to that at the end of the month. Ngoku sifika kuvuthondaba. It is a birthday celebration. Sizawubiza chairperson of the council, uMamuthandi Orlane, uVC, Institution Forum, IF, Inahau, SRC, a representative of SRC, representative of Student Parliament, Sizo Sikikeik. Uchawe, nguye ke phakathi kwethu sobabini onelizwe elimnandi. Uthe uzawusilidisha ngo-happy birthday. Yes.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, while the stakeholders are going down for the cutting of the cake, the chairperson of council, the institution forum, NEHAW, the SRC, student parliament, asikhumbuleni nje ukuthi asiphelelanga kushotha uZK. Asiphelelanga kushotha uZK, asiphelelanga asiphelelanga kushotha uMatthew, asiphelelanga kushotha uMatthew, asiphelelanga aniyiyizele bomama, hayi bo umzuzu beseza nayo ikwaya mayikiniphe isitibile esimnandi noba ngabe ingathatha la asiphelelanga mayinike isitibile esimnandi. All right. In the meantime, I'm going to request a institution forum representative yayo. And the stakeholders, ladies and gentlemen, have a minute to deliver a very brief message of support. And we're going to ask them to do that while we wait over there. Let me also have a representative in Nehau to come. Let me have a representative of the SRC to come. Let me also have a representative of the Student Parliament to come over. Kulisa Forte Kulisa. Long live Forte, long live.
Let me take this opportunity as the chairperson of Institutional Forum IF at University of Forte. Firstly, I must say protocol is observed. Viva founders of Forte, viva! Viva ZK Matthews, viva! Thank you. My message on behalf of the Institutional Forum at Forte is going to be brief and very much precise, and that is, we are cutting this cake, wishing University of Forte more years to come, very prosperous one, and we are also saying as we cut this cake, let us come together and forget the differences that we have as stakeholders and look forward to resolving all the challenges that are facing us as an institution and also critical stakeholders. Viva Forte, viva!
Thank you very much, Chairperson of the session. All protocols observed. I want to greet each and every SRC leader that is in the House, more especially the first female president of the SRC, County Backbone. This was the first female president ever at the University of Forte, being a female. Without wasting time, because I had prepared a few pages to speak, but to my surprise, I was given 1 minute. I would like to say on behalf of each and every student of Forte, happy birthday to our institution. What we must not forget is that as you are growing older, there are things that you keep, not because you've got a choice, but you are born with. That to us is our history. But again, there are things that you just realize when you are growing up, which is the present and the current future that we are preparing for ourselves as students, and the history that we are collecting for ourselves. May the university see many more years, and may we enjoy these festivities for the whole year. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Program Director. I'm very much tempted to say Amandla, but I also don't want to be politically incorrect. But I think I also share the same sentiments with Minister of Higher Education when he said he's the only minister that has the opportunity to celebrate 100 years of Forte, and there will be no other minister that will have that opportunity. I just want to say also, as a secretary of Nehau, I'm very glad that I'm part of what is going on now, But in terms of our message as NEHAU, we hope that we are not only celebrating today, we want to see the legacy that this celebration is going to achieve. And we hope that one of the legacies is to make sure that both the lives of the workers and the lives of our students are improved. Amandla!
Mandla, awethu, amandla, khula no college khula, qina no college qina. Thank you very much, Program Director. I will just say one or two words before I descend the podium. We celebrated this birthday today together with the university and the alumni, etc., etc. We just want to say, Hare participated in the liberation struggle as much as Abo ZK Mythos, about Tato ZK Mythos, they've participated. But we are saying today, the challenges have changed. We are now liberated. But we must be able to say, as we step on the first day of the next 100 years, Hare must assist us as students to establish a University of Hare Center for free education and for economic freedom. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, the stakeholders have given their messages. Let's give the photographers an opportunity to be ready for this picture. I would advise that we get ready. There you are, ladies and gentlemen, the cake is cut. Yizela mama. Shall we all rise, ladies and gentlemen, and sing happy birthday Hare. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Hare. Happy birthday to, one more time. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Hare. Happy birthday to you. Hip hip. Hip hip. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Are there any alumni of Hare today that are wearing the popular, most famous, internationally acclaimed Hare blazer? Can everybody else sit down? Let me see. All those who got their blazers on. Ladies and gentlemen, let me see all the blazers, please. How do you say the blazer? I said Hare. Thank you. And ladies and gentlemen, the honor to a very loyal, all-time alumnus of Hare who has put this blazer on at any level of any event in South Africa, Chief Mangosuthu Buthelezi. He is known for that blazer. Let's give him a big round of applause. He is known for that blazer. Ndabezitha. Thank you, Ndabezitha, for marketing that Hare blazer. Let's give him another round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. He has marketed that Fort Hare blazer anywhere and everywhere. Thank you. Yazi ngenye imini uchate ngeblazer yaseFort Hare, man bakhona bangekachati. Hayi sukuhleka. Just walk down the aisle to the minister with your bride to be, wearing that great Fort Hare blazer. Thank you. I'm going to invite the Vice Chancellor now for the vote of thanks, ladies and gentlemen. He is the last speaker of the day. Let's give him a big round of applause.
Noloyiso. By doing that part, I think I'm going to acknowledge people as I speak rather than starting the protocol one by one. And I'm going to do it in groups. You've all been sitting for quite a long time now. So with respect, I would like all officials and ministers to allow me to do that. Unkosi Uzolile Ncamashe quoted Ngxeke SEK Mkhai. So when I do this vote of thanks, I would like to just say one sentence from the poem that he wrote on Umendi, as the Premier said here. Because there's no translation, I will just say it in English briefly after that. All he said was, in a sad moment, he said, "Aw, ewe, kambe siyabulela. Le nqanawe Umendi namhla yendisile." In this context, we can say, i-University yaseFort Hare namhla yendisile. In short, what Mkhai was saying, in that sad moment of the sinking of that ship, which took many an African life in the ocean, he was saying, indeed, we are very, very grateful. This ship called Mendi has today brought marriage. The marriage in that context was African blood was spilled in the defense of European fighting. So black and white were being married on that day. Today we are here, and Fort Hare for years has brought that unison, that unity, that union of people of different backgrounds, different sociological origins, different characters, different colors, etc. So the spaciousness that was talked about by a guest speaker in Z.K. Matthews' graduation, there were only two of them graduating. Z.K. Matthews was the first to graduate with a bachelor's degree. The second one was Edwin Ncwana, who was a diplomate. He got a diploma at the University of Fort Hare. The speaker, talking about Fort Hare, small as it was, said, no one can fathom the spaciousness that this institution shows and that which it will show in future. Just in the person, Z.K. Matthews, that spaciousness was shown. Just in the history of this university, which I'm not going to repeat, that spaciousness has been shown. We are now a great, iconic African university, the University of Fort Hare. One of the things that I always marvel about in the University of Fort Hare, from its founding and its birth, it was born during the time of war, right in the middle of the First World War. 1916, the war was waged between 1914 and 1918, and there was a university springing here. And its birth was first delayed by the South African War, because it could have been born at the end of the 19th century. In the 1890s, Fort Hare could have been born then. There were delays, there were debates about where it should be located, Bloemfontein, Umtata, here in Alice, but the forces of destiny made it to be here, next to the banks of the Kume River, the fountain of knowledge. In 1905, therefore, a question which was asked elsewhere in 1903, what is to be done, was answered in a different context, not in the communist context, of whether you should have central democracy or democratic centralism. In this case, it was to say, should Africans have a university in South Africa? And some of us don't know the story about Jabavu. Jabavu was saying, in order to win this battle of having a university for Africans in South Africa, let's use their logic. Let's just say, lots of the Africans who train outside South Africa come back with a lot of radicalism, with ideologies on non-racialism that is not known in South Africa. Let's train them here in South Africa so that they don't get those ideas when they go abroad. So the battle was won. The then British colonialists, because it was not Afrikaners, by the way, it was British colonialists at that time, they agreed to have the university. I would like to say a word of thanks to all of you in the words that Mkai said. If I were to say a word of thanks to each and every individual here, we would have the whole day spent here. And therefore, I would like to thank all the speakers who eloquently demonstrated the history of the University of Fort Hare. Some of you will go out here to the exhibition that is outside the Freedom Square, and you'll see some of the history that was eloquently elaborated on here. And therefore, I will not, by any means, thank everybody who is here. I would like to thank in groups now, the founders of the University of Fort Hare, and all those who came before us as this generation, who strenuously fought against Bantu education, and some indeed lost their own academic careers in that particular struggle against the 1959 Universities Extension of Universities Act. And those who were there in 1905, when this university was founded, before it was actually born in 1916. Indeed, that first class, the first class at this university in 1916, had only 20 students. And the minister has already said the 13,500 students that we have at Fort Hare this day. So I'd like to thank those who had that vision, people like Z.K. Matthews and others, who had a vision of developing this African university to be where it is now. We always forget one person who was mentioned by Dr. Mangosuthu Buthelezi, Godfrey Pitcher. The granddaughter is somewhere here. Ipuseng, just stand up for once so that people see you. The granddaughter of Godfrey Pitcher is there. Like Walter Sisulu, who founded Mandela and Oliver Tambo and brought them to the ANC, Godfrey Pitcher founded the Youth League here at Fort Hare and identified some of the leaders, not only in South Africa, but outside South Africa, who were here to lead the ANC Youth League. Amongst them is Dr. Mangosuthu Buthelezi, Tsu Mukhehle, Robert Sobukwe, and others. So that is one of the people we don't celebrate much in South Africa, a person who was a pioneer as an academic in this institution, not as a student. He was already an academic. And indeed, those founding fathers and everybody who came after them, would like to thank them. Would like to thank those who fought for Forte not to be amalgamated with any of the institutions when the size and shape debate started in South Africa. There was a threat that South Africa would go to Rhodes and be closed as the University of Forte. So one of the people amongst us here, Dr. Reverend Makengesi Stofile, I was working with him at that time when we were visited by the late Professor Kada Asmal, who came to announce, and I'm saying that guardedly, he said announce, he didn't say negotiate. And you can imagine to whom he was saying that he's announcing that Forte will stop being Forte. Professor Derek Swartz was the Vice-Chancellor at that time. And Premier Makengesi Stofile looked at him and said, Professor Asmal, do you know what you mean by saying such a thing? The rest is history. I won't go into it. I would like to thank the Chair of Council and all Council chairs from other universities who are here with us, and I'm not going to mention you by name, your presence here. The chairs of Council, the Vice-Chancellors from the various universities, the alumni of the University of Forte. I would like to just say there are 3 who are here today from the 1940s to the 1949 category. Their senior is Mr. Mdamda, seated there. He was at Forte from 1941 to 1943. Next in the list is Dr. van der Linde, seated right there at the end of the first row. May I ask you to stand up, Dr. van der Linde? He was at Forte from 1947 to 1950. And of course, our guest speaker today, he already told you he was here from 1948 to 1950. We are still going to bring one of those decade luminaries and eminent alumni of Forte in May. And I want to venture this particular date. It's a tentative date. Oh, I'm warned not to. But to just say in May, there's going to be another great meeting and ceremony at the University of Forte. And one of those alumni, none other than President Robert Mugabe, will be invited to that particular ceremony. As I said to other people, this is just umcimandlu. The real mkiti will still come. A big celebration will still come. I'll talk to you about that later on. Then I would like to thank all of the alumni who contributed to making this gathering a success. We are going to bring them and celebrate with them month by month until September. I've mentioned the 40 to 49 group. 50 to 59, anybody around? I didn't see anybody between 50 and 59. Oh, there's one. You have to regroup as the alumni of Forte belonging to that decade for the next month, the month of March. Oh, by the way, Reverend Dr. Gubule belongs to that category. 50 to 54, he was here at Forte. So there are 2 of you, 1 woman and 1 man. So each one of you bring more women and bring more men for next month. Then can I ask the 60 to 69 to just raise their hands? Angu Chase. I can't see the face there. 60 to 69, there should be many of you. There's Professor Mfenyana, one of the Vice-Chancellors, Vice Chancellor of Walter Sisulu. In April, your group will be assembling here. We'll give you the date. The big group. 70 to 79. Amandla! 70 to 79, big group. I got my cultural shock here at Fort Hare in 73, by the way. I was not used to women leading a strike. We had a woman, I'll mention the name later, who, when we went to a look for the various political gatherings around the campus, climbed up a tree. She was in jeans. She climbs up a tree and she talks to us, instructing us what needs to be done. And I'm a first year in 1973. Minister Hare, that lady was Tenji Wemtinso, who gave us that cultural shock. And Fukan is here, the son. So women have been in the forefront of struggle here. And I would like to thank all alumni. I'm not going to go to the 80s, 90s, etc. There are lots of them here, but we'll talk about that. Okay, 80 to 89. 80 to 89. Why are you so few? Oh, some are on the stage. Yes, one of the vice chancellors. 90 to 91, 99. 2000 to 2009. Oh, that's the 21st century. Those are the people who must see the next century for the University of Fort Hare. Then the last group, 2010 to now. All right. So thank you very much to the alumni. And I would like to thank, now let me go to government. And all the ministers have been acknowledged here. The Speaker of the National Assembly has been acknowledged. All the ministers acknowledged. We've got an interministerial committee that is working with us to ensure that these celebrations are a success. The President of the Republic, when he spoke to us, and the Council Chair and the Deputy Chair of Council, talking about the University of Fort Hare, reminded us that that's not just your celebration, by the way, and it's not just South Africa's celebration. It's a celebration for the African continent. And therefore, we will do our best to support the centenary of the University of Fort Hare. You can see that in today and the days that have gone by, the TV that is here whole time, SABC was unlocked through the work that we did with the Interministerial Committee and some of the work that went during that course of the time. Ministers, I would like to thank the government of the ruling party, the ANC, but also we met in 2012 with the ANC when it celebrated the centenary, the ANC centenary in 2012. And we reminded them that the younger sister, the University of Fort Hare, will be celebrating its centenary in 2016. From then on, the debate has not been lost in the corridors of the ANC about the centenary of the University of Fort Hare. And again, I'm not going to go through the history, you know it for yourselves. But I would like to say, Fort Hare, as having the intermarriages that were supposed to take place according to Mkai, did not just have the ANC on campus. Vibrant debates were taking place with the unity movement earlier, before the PAC was born and before Black Consciousness was born. Unity movement and the ANC were the particular political movements that were having competition and contest on this campus. And therefore, all these liberation movements have kept their archival material with the University of Fort Hare. It's here. If you want to read about all these movements and their history, there it is in our NAHEX building. You will find it there. Thanks to President Oliver Tambo and other presidents who agreed to this way back in the early 90s. And President Tambo said, if the archival material of the ANC has got to be kept at Fort Hare, it's a true reflection of what Fort Hare actually is. It is also an archive of the South African liberation movements. That's what he said, commit that. Yeah. So I'd like to thank all those who have supported this from various quarters from which you come. I would like to correct one thing that all of us, as we go into this century, we must know and accept. KK and Mwalimu never studied at Fort Hare. They were honored by the University of Fort Hare. So let's not make that mistake in our history. Let's not claim them as alumni of the University of Fort Hare. So every 20,000, 2000 and 2016, you are the ones that should know that particular history. So that when we thank them for the contribution that they made, because some of the students from those countries came to the University of Fort Hare and studied here. If you go to Tanzania, Kenya, Zambia, African continent, up to Ethiopia, you'll find alumni of the University of Fort Hare. So I'd like to thank all leaders, and more especially President Robert Mugabe, who has continued to give us students in huge numbers to study at the University of Fort Hare. Lastly, amongst the speakers, I would like to thank, I should have mentioned another category, and I think all of us tend to forget that because Minister Pando has spoken. We would like to thank the ZK Matthews family for the support that they continuously give to the University of Fort Hare. I've got younger brothers there, just like Dr. Mangosuthu Telezi said he got a brother in Joe Matthews. I've got brothers in the Makubela family. The elder brother from elder son of Dr. Makubela was with us at medical school, the late Dias Makubela. So I've now inherited Usipo, Notemba as my younger brothers. We work together, and Temba has brought to this gathering the Sykes family. Where are they seated? Right there. Who are from America, but they do work in South Africa for the Oprah Winfrey Foundation. They are here with us today. We continue to do that work. And we have also managed to have connections with Boston. The Wheelock College is working with us to establish one of the new programs for this century for the university, early childhood development at the University of Fort Hare. And there she is, Jackie, just raise your hand. Yes, so that's some of the friends of the University of Fort Hare. Minister, you have made that challenge. We will talk about it, and I usually talk about the Mkandawire vision, which both of us know, and I'm not going to share it with this crowd here because it's something that we have to work together to achieve. Even after I've left this university, I will pursue that one with you and whoever takes over as Minister of Higher Education in the future. If we don't achieve it during our time, we'll carry it forward in the next few years. If you want to know about the Mkandawire vision, you can come to me after this meeting. Lastly, I would like to thank the keynote speaker for today. I'm not in the habit of summarizing speeches. Fortunately, you've got the speech also in your papers, and I'm going to thank him only by saying his loyalty to the University of Fort Hare, his passion for the University of Fort Hare, and his commitment to this university doesn't go unnoticed. And I would like him to receive this token of appreciation from us. Yes, I'm being chased away, by the couple that I must also thank, the program directors. Indeed, Nada was in the Western Cape chapter of alumni. I had a wonderful meeting with them. They came in hundreds to have an alumni gathering that we all celebrated in Cape Town. Long live all the chapters of alumni. I want to visit all of you, but next time I'm not going to pay for my flight. I'm not going to pay for my accommodation. You are going to host me. You are going to fly me to your meetings. And having said that, the summary of a donation from me that I would like to make from all of you to pledge. Imagine how many of you are here, friends of Fort Hare and alumni of Fort Hare. About 4,000 of us here. Just give 1,000 rand this year, for the whole year. 4 million is done. 4 million is done. You can go and assist the students, can go and assist our infrastructure. 50,000 alumni of the university working. Those who are working, I'm not talking about those who are not working. 1,000 rand a year, 50 million rand for this university. Simple as that. Of course, there are people who are saying they'll give 30,000, 10,000, 15,000. And may I, as I sit down and hand over to the couple, ask all the presidents to just stand up and say hi to this crowd. Thank you very much. All presidents of the SRC.
Thank you, VC. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been a wonderful audience. But if you can just bear with us now for a few more minutes. It is an age-old tradition in this area that when you embark on a journey or on a task, you ask the one above for blessings, and when the task is finished, you do the same. We asked Dr. Qubule to give us an opening prayer. We will call upon him again to say grace. But please remain seated. An official from the University of Fort Hare is going to tell us where we're going to go after this.
I also want to make a correction. Desmond Tutu never studied here. He studied at the Bantu Normal College in Pretoria. But when he came back from London in 1967, he joined us as a band of chaplains to students here. So he was a chaplain to Anglican students at Fort Hare from 1967 to 1970. That's what links him with Fort Hare. Before I could pronounce the benediction, I must tell you this one. Dr. Alexander Hare, founding principal here, told us that he received a letter from the Reverend Knox Bokwe, father to Mrs. Frida Matthews, asking if this boy called Matthews would be a suitable husband to his daughter. Whereupon the doctor said, yes, he is. Will you please stand? The grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, the love of God, and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with us now and with all those you love through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Even if it's after the benediction, I've omitted that group of my students, the choir. You did an excellent job. Thank you very much.
I'm just going to announce the way that we will exit and where everybody will eat. First, we will allow the VIP, and by VIP, you must have something like this that's written VIP as well as a wristband. So those that have been accredited as such will allow, the way that we came in, will allow the ministers and the procession to leave first. And they will go through that door into their cars and to the staff center where you were at in the morning, and that is where you will have your lunch. And you will be joined by the procession over there. The students will go to the green auditorium for their lunch. The choir will go to the brown auditorium for your lunch. The media, back to the media room where you've been the whole day in the agricultural auditorium. Alumni, staff, guests at the back over there once the ministers and the procession has left. The VOC in the sports boardroom, that includes EMS and police over there. PSS, protective services, will go to the staff center. Protocol, ushers, Centenary team, and at the student center. But please, let us allow first. Let's just calm down and allow our leaders to go first.
Thank you very much, Sisintle. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been a wonderful audience. Please enjoy the rest of your day. Sibambe ke olacwangco uSisintle ebesichazele ngalo, and allow the VIPs and the dignitaries to first, exit the hall. Thank you so much.